Welcome again, ECO151 students, to week 5 second session on elasticity. This session will cover the relationship between price elasticity and revenue structure of a firm, as well as the determinants of price elasticity of demand. Recall that the price elasticity of demand reflects by how much quantity demanded change when there is a change in the price of a product. This implies that the price elasticity of demand also indicates by how much the firm's total revenue change when the firm adjusts the price of its products. This is the most useful piece of information produced by the concept of price elasticity of demand to economists, businesses, and policymakers. Total revenue collected by firms is the same as total expenditure by consumers on goods and services, which is equal to the price multiplied by the goods sold. Furthermore, we know that there is a negative relationship between the price of the good and the quantity demanded. This means that if there is a change in the price of a product, the quantity demanded changes in the opposite direction. Therefore, the effects of a price change on revenue depend largely on the relative size of the change in price and quantity demanded. Now, let us relate the change in price to the change in revenue. When the price of a product change, there are three most important relationships we observe. Firstly, when the price change leads to a proportionately greater change in quantity demanded, then total revenue will change in the opposite direction to the price change. Secondly, when a price change leads to an equiproportional change in the quantity demanded, then total revenue will remain the same. Lastly, when a price change leads to a proportionally smaller change in the quantity demanded, then total revenue will change in the same direction as the price change. Therefore, these relationships offers business people crucial information for efficient pricing of products in a bid to maximize profits. Let us use a numeric example to show the three important relationships between a price change and total revenue from cappuccino sales. Table 5.1 illustrates the demand for cappuccino as well as the total revenue from cappuccino sales. The first column shows the price of cappuccinos, whilst the second, third, and fourth column reflect the quantity demanded, total revenue, and price elasticity of demand, respectively, associated with each price level. Looking at this table, let us verify the three relationships we have just found out with regards to price changes and total revenue. Firstly, when the price elasticity is greater than 1, then total revenue will change in the opposite direction to the change in the price. Thus, as the price of cappuccino is falling from 40 rand to say 24 rand, quantity demanded increases and total revenue increases. Secondly, when the price elasticity of demand is equal to 1, then total revenue remains the same. For example, at the price of 20 rand, the price elasticity of demand is equal to 1, and the total revenue is maximized at a value of 200,000. Thirdly, when the price elasticity is smaller than 1, then total revenue will change in the same direction as the price change. That is, as the price falls from 16 rand to say 4 rand, quantity demanded increases but total revenue falls. Let us use a graphical example based on our numerical example in illustrating the relationship between price change and total revenue. Figure 5.2 illustrates the demand curve for cappuccino and the total revenue collected from cappuccino sales. Furthermore, this figure reflects our three most important relationships between prices and total revenue, which are: 1. As the price falls from 40 rand to 24 rand, the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, quantity demanded increases and total revenue increases. 2. When the price is equal to 20 Rand, the price elasticity is equal to 1. Total revenue is at its maximum. 3. When the price falls from 16 Rand to 4 Rand, the elasticity coefficient is less than 1. The quantity demanded increases but total revenue falls. Therefore, it is only logical for a profit maximizing firm to increase the price of a product if the price elasticity coefficient is less than 1, or to lower the price of a product if the price elasticity coefficient is greater than 1, or to leave the price of the product if the price elasticity is equal to 1. These relationships we observe between the price and total revenue holds for all downward sloping demand curves. The relationship between price elasticity of demand and total revenue can also be understood further by looking at the 5 different categories of price elasticity of demand. These categories are: 1. Perfectly inelastic demand, where the elasticity coefficient is equal to 0. 2. Inelastic demand, where the elasticity coefficient lies between 0 and 1. 3. Unitary elastic demand, where the elasticity coefficient is equal to 1. 4. Elastic demand, where the elasticity coefficient lies between 1 and less than infinity. 5. Perfectly elastic demand, where the elasticity coefficient is equal to infinity. Let us look at these categories individually. When the price elasticity of demand is said to be perfectly inelastic, the elasticity coefficient will be equal to 0. This means that price change does not affect quantity demanded. Thus, consumers plan to purchase a fixed amount of the quantity irrespective of the price. The demand curve for such a product will be a vertical line parallel to the price axis. Furthermore, for such a product, the total revenue changes in the same direction as the price change. Thus, for a profit maximizing firm, they will always have an incentive to increase the price, as this will lead to an increase in revenue. Examples of goods with perfectly inelastic demand include insulin as well as addictive products. When the price elasticity of demand is inelastic, the elasticity coefficient lies between 0 and 1. This means that quantity demanded is less responsive to price changes. That is, a huge change in price will only cause a small change in quantity demanded. For example, if the price of a product increased by 10%, the quantity demanded will decrease by 2%. The demand curve for such a product will be relatively steeper. More so, for products with inelastic demand, the total revenue changes in the same direction as the change in price. Hence, for a profit maximizing firm, they will always have an incentive to raise the price in order to increase revenue. Examples for goods with inelastic demand include necessity goods such as food, housing, electricity, healthcare, education, amongst others. When the price elasticity of demand is unitary elastic, the elasticity coefficient will be equal to 1. This means quantity demanded will change with the same proportion as the change in prices. That is, a 10% increase in prices will cause the quantity demanded to change by 10%. Since the elasticity coefficient is equal to 1, revenue is maximized. Hence, a profit maximizing firm will not alter the price of such a product. When the price elasticity of demand is elastic, the elasticity coefficient will lie between 1 and infinity. This means quantity demanded is highly responsive to price changes. Thus, a 10% increase in the price of a product will lead to a 15% decrease in quantity demanded. Note that the increase in price is less than the decrease in quantity demanded. The demand curve for such a product is relatively flatter. More so, the total revenue changes in the opposite direction to the change in price. Hence, for a profit maximizing firm, they always have an incentive to lower prices for such products in a bid to raise revenue. Examples of goods with elastic demand include luxury goods such as motor vehicles, magazines, amongst others. When the price elasticity of demand is perfectly elastic, the elasticity coefficient will be equal to infinity. This means quantity demanded is perfectly responsive to price changes. In this case, consumers are willing to purchase any quantity at a certain price, but if the price change increase only slightly, the quantity demanded falls to zero, so does total revenue. The demand curve for such a product is characterized by a horizontal line. For example, if there are two vending machines side by side, people will be buying from either machines since the price in both machines will be the same. However, if one machine has prices that are higher than the other, then people will only buy from the machine with cheaper prices. Therefore, the demand for goods in the machine that is higher would fall. The table 5.2 shows a summary of relationships between the different categories of price elasticity of demand and total revenue. You can pause the video and make sure you understand these relationships, as well as you can relate them to the structure of the demand curve. Up to now, we have a good understanding of price elasticity of demand, as well as its relationship to total revenue. Let us now examine the determinants of price elasticity of demand, or what causes a specific product to be elastic or inelastic. These features include substitution possibilities, the degree of complementarity of the product, the type of want satisfied by the product, the time period under consideration, the proportion of income spent on the product, the definition of the product, advertising, durability, number of uses of the product, as well as addictions. As a result of economic effects that simultaneously causes changes to economic systems as well as different consumer responses to prices, all the information relevant must be considered in determining whether a product is elastic or inelastic. Let us discuss these determinants in detail. The first determinant is substitution possibilities. Consumers react more to a price change of a product if they know that there are possible products or alternatives that can be used in place of the current product without decreasing their utility or satisfaction. Therefore, the existence of a large number of close substitutes makes the demand for a product elastic. The second feature is the definition of the product. The broader the definition of a product, the less price elastic the product becomes. For example, the price elasticity of demand for meat is lower than the price elasticity of demand for beef. The third factor is the degree of complementarity of the product. With highly complementary goods, the price elasticity of demand tends to be low, thus demand is inelastic. For example, the demand for motor cars and motor car tires it is often argued that it is the lack of substitute rather than the complementarity that is responsible for the inelasticity of these products. The fourth factor is the type of want satisfied by the product. The price elasticity of demand for necessities is more inelastic since the consumption of such products does not respond much to changes in prices. However, for luxury products, the price elasticity of demand is elastic as these goods demand do respond to changes in prices. The fifth factor is the time period under consideration. Demand for products tends to be more price elastic in the long run than in the short run. Ceteris paribus. This is because in the long run, there is enough time for the adjustment from price changes as compared to the short run. The sixth factor is durability. Products that last or are more durable tend to be more elastic since they can be used again. That is, if new product prices increase, one can postpone the purchase of new products through reuse of the older ones. The seventh factor is the proportion of income spent on the product. The greater the proportion of income spent on the product, the greater the price elasticity of demand. Thus, a change in the price of a product such as salt may not result in a change in quantity demanded, but a change in the price of rent would. The eighth factor is the number of uses for the product. When a product has many uses, the price elasticity of demand tends to be greater since substitutes can always eliminate some of its uses. The ninth factor is addiction. Very addictive products have a low price elasticity of demand since a change in price will not cause consumers to change their behavior or demand that much as in the case of cigarettes and alcohol. More so, for completely addicted consumers, the price elasticity may be perfectly inelastic as changes in price will not affect their consumption behavior at all. Therefore, in deciding whether the demand for a particular good is elastic or inelastic, all the determinants and their relative importance must be considered.